anniversary to the Orange and Blue. We're officially 10 this season. This many. I'm holding up both hands. You can't see it. All fingers. We're 10 years old. I say we're officially old enough for our parents to entrust us with babysitting the younger siblings. We're no longer the new guy everyone wants to diss and make fun of. We're old enough to blaze our own trail. And every new step into international club competition is a new step into history. We know that we'll be in the Leagues Cup, the U.S. Open Cup with our 2 team, and the regular MLS season. But first off, we'll be in the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup. Our first opponent is FC Motagua from the heart of Honduras. We're going to be talking with George Metellus to cover as much of this hemispherian competition as we can and perhaps figure out if the Orange and Blue have what it takes to survive the jungle. First off, a quick thank you to Apollo Home for sponsoring us once again this season. We warned you the temperatures have plummeted and they're stabilizing, but Apollo Home can still come to the rescue. It can still help you for your heating demands, and when summer finally comes, your cooling needs. Call Apollo Home or get online to schedule an appointment at apollohome.com. All right, we're going into this first episode of this season's Jersey Swap with a bit of a theme, box to box. Both Justin Blair and myself, we work in the press box for FC Cincinnati matches, and we're talking with one of the more colorful personalities in the announcer's box, Mr. George D. Metellus. He's worked with beIN Sports and Paramount Plus, and I think you can argue he's had one of the most extensive passports in the world when it comes to soccer coverage. So, George, thank you very much for joining us on our first podcast of the season.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, first one of the season. I get to be on the first one. That's cool. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we're still working preseason right now, but, we've got the CONCACAF Champions Cup coming up pretty soon. So we thought we'd bring in someone who's got a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge of all of these countries and their representatives. So we thought we'd bring you in and maybe give us your feedback in terms of what this tournament is all about.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating tournament. I have one team that's the favorite, but I'm sure we'll get to that. So I don't want to spoil it there. Until we get to that talk. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover it. I mean, you've been in the box for a few of these games last year, so we can't wait to see if we get you to announce our game up against Motagua from the Honduras region down there.
Oh man, I'm telling you, if you do, get ready for all the Cincinnati quotes or references, because that's what happened when I did New England Revolution and Philadelphia Union, and I had all kinds of references. I mean, if I do FC Cincinnati, be careful, because next thing, if they score, I'll be like, hey, reminds me of Boomer Esiason to James Brooks back in the day or something, So, I mean, get ready.
Bring it on. I mean, Chad Johnson is a big time, Ocho Six is a big time soccer fan. We keep telling him we need him to play for our 2 team or even to show up and do some of the pregame activities for a game, but nothing quite yet.
I've met him before. I've interviewed him a couple times when beIN was at its peak, and he was here. Well, he's from down here, so from Miami. So I got to interview him a couple times. He's a really cool dude, and he loves the game. He challenges people. He used to challenge people all the time on Twitter to get online and play him on FIFA. So he loves the game for sure.
I mean, as we all do, and as you do, and we would like to know a little bit about you in terms of your background, and if you can give like a short biography of yourself.
Well, I was born in Queens, New York City, to Haitian parents. My mom and dad are Haitian immigrants, but we moved to Miami when I was 3 years old, and I've basically been living in Miami-Dade County since I was 3 years old. I've spent 4 years went to the United States Air Force. I was in the Air Force for 4 years. And then came out, went to University of Miami, and that's where I started doing broadcasting on the student radio station WVUM. I did a hip hop show. I did some sports stuff there, and eventually I got an internship at Gold TV, and that's where my soccer broadcasting journey began at Gold TV. It was November of 2010, right after the South Africa World Cup, and after that, did 4 years there. And then beIN came into the picture around, they started beIN came in 2013. I got there February of 2014 and was at beIN for about 10 years. So it's been a wild ride for me in terms of soccer broadcasting, and it's been a lot of fun. Got to meet some really great people and watch some great matches and cover some great leagues. So, but basically, that's like my biography in a nutshell.
Yeah, and currently you're working out of Miami. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, I was working at when being relocated to Mexico City, they didn't have any production in the United States. So I was basically a free agent. I was working at a boxing network, Pro Box TV, for about a year and a half. They just let about 8 or 9 people go. So I was one of them. So I'm kind of a free agent right now. But the CONCACAF stuff is starting up soon, and their broadcasting or their production is in Miami. So I'll be hitting. I should have a couple of games. I got to find out over the next couple of weeks what games I'll be doing and how many I'll be doing. But it's going to be an interesting year. 2025 is certainly kind of a change in a new direction for me in terms of my career. But hopefully I could still do football and soccer matches.
Yeah, I think having you down in Miami, you're definitely in the lifeblood of what soccer is all about right now, with really the Messi effect in place there. I mean, is it palpable there? Do you feel that there's been sort of a sea change, or is it just more of a splash of color on top of an already colorful lifestyle down there?
Yeah, I think it's been more of a splash of color. I mean, I'm seeing more Inter Miami jerseys for sure. Yeah, more people are wearing Messi jerseys because no one was wearing Campana or Higuain jerseys a few years ago, or Gregor jerseys a few years ago. But Messi came to Miami and everybody's wearing Messi jerseys. But I don't think he's changed the culture so much and turned Miami, or South Florida, I should say, because where Inter Miami plays actually in the county north of Dade, which is Broward County in Fort Lauderdale. Now, I don't think he's changed the culture or made Inter Miami more on people's radar. Let me put it that way. They are getting more people into to the stadium for the games, but Miami, Dwayne Wade had more of an impact on Miami and South Florida sports than Lionel Messi. So
really,
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Wow. Dwayne Wade was way more impactful in the community of South Florida sports than Lionel Messi. Now, don't get me wrong, Messi's made a big impact, but his impact has been more on the business side for MLS and the owners of Inter Miami, because they want to build that Miami Freedom Park and have that whole facility done for 2026. So that's where Messi's impact has been. But when it comes to raising the attention or the profile of Inter Miami, it's been good, but it hasn't been like majorly impactful.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think you could argue up here in Ohio. I mean, the Columbus Crew, their game against Miami has been moved all the way up to Cleveland so that they can have a bigger audience. As for something like, so I guess that's the impact that we're seeing. It's more nationwide, more international than maybe the hyper local Miami cultural centers. Yeah,
I mean, there's still Inter Miami. Since Messi came, they're getting more people to go to the games, and more people are on Instagram. I don't know how many hot women I see on Instagram at the Inter Miami Stadium. You know what I'm saying? Like I follow 3 of them personally, and I'm like, you didn't even know soccer. You don't know anything about soccer before Messi came, and then they're at the Inter Miami game with their tank tops and their belly buttons showing. I'm like, let me not say that. But so it has raised the profile of the club, but in terms of really impacting the area, it's been minimal.
Yeah. Well, let's keep our horizons broad then, instead of hyper culturally centered there. Let's stretch a little bit more hemispherical.
Okay.
Looking at sort of your background, like what leagues have you covered, and what would you say, like if you looked at all of these leagues in the hemisphere, which ones have been the wildest to cover?
Ooh, let's see. Well, when I was at Gold TV, we used to do Italy and Spain, Serie A and La Liga, and then we also did some of the South American leagues. So Uruguay, the Brasileirão, and the Sao Paulo State Tournament. We did Colombia, we did Argentina, those were the 4 Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Colombia. And then when I got to BN, it was Liga, Turkish Super League, obviously La Liga, Serie A, and a couple of other. We had some CONCACAF World Cup qualifying as well. So some of the bigger some of the bigger leagues in the world. The wildest one has got to be neck and neck. It's the Turkish Super League, and we also at Gold TV I did the second division, Ascenso MX, the second division of Mexican football.
Oh,
and
okay.
That was wild because the fans. First of all, we could, as broadcasters, it was hard to find and research and find information on the teams, and there wouldn't be that many people in the stands, but it seemed like there was an intensity at the stadium there for the games and stuff like that. The wildest fight that I've ever seen was a second division Ascenso MX game, second division Mexican game. And I was pissed off because I was supposed to go out with a girl that night. And because of the fight, I was delayed 2.5 hours. The girl didn't, canceled, and I never got to get with her. I was pissed off. So, and Ascenso MX, the second division Mexican football back then, was still it wasn't HD. It was standard. It was like you're watching a game from 1985. It was insane.
My goodness.
I was man, I was so mad. She was hot too, but and then let me get back onto the soccer. And then Turkish Super League is crazy too because it was wild because the atmospheres in the stadiums were crazy, especially when Fenerbahce faced the Galatasaray.
Right.
Those matches are wild. They get delayed. There's always a red card. It seemed like every game in the Turkish Super League, it could be Antalyaspor versus Sivasspor, and there's like 2 red cards in every game. It was crazy. So I would say those two are the wildest, Turkish Super League and the Ascenso MX second division of Mexican football.
Oh, wow. I've never heard a story about how someone had a date canceled because the game ran too long.
Oh, man, I was so heated. I was so mad. I've been working on this girl for like 2 weeks, and I finally got her to go out with me. And I know if I had gone out with me, she had gone out with me, we would have had some fun. I gotta censor myself. I'm sorry, man. I was so mad.
I will apologize to my own wife, honey. I love you, and I will make sure that doesn't happen ever to us.
Yeah. This is why single dudes can't hang out with married dudes. I'm single, so I can't hang out with married dudes because we give you guys crazy ideas, and then the wives don't like it. So
okay,
I gotta chill. Yeah.
We might have to delete that one from
yeah.
But let's move on. Let's try to stay within CONCACAF, perhaps. I mean, we've got the big CCC is coming up. The second year of this mammoth tournament. But I also have a feeling you have your finger on CONCACAF a lot more than the average soccer fan. Maybe in retrospect, what countries do you feel are ready to make a mark as a dark horse in these matches, whether it's club or country from CONCACAF?
Ooh, that's a good one there. I would say, I guess Costa Rica, but I don't know if that, because Costa Rica is kind of in that tier underneath the Mexican Liga MX and MLS, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like Saprissa, Herediano. I would guess those two. I know the Canadian teams are kind of looming there, but I would say the Costa Rican team, Deportivo Saprissa, is the most decorated team in Costa Rican football. They pretty much dominate the Central American Cup. If they don't win it, they're going to get to the final and semifinal. And Costa Rica is a really underrated football nation. They've qualified for World Cups, multiple World Cups in our lifetimes. So there's the passion for the game there. I would say the Costa Rican teams are teams to really look out for, them, kind of dark horses in CONCACAF competitions, especially Saprissa, because they're the big team. I did a game with last tournament with Saprissa against, was it the Union?
I think it was the Union, yeah.
And I call them the Real Madrid of Central American football because they've won the most domestic titles in Costa Rica, and they've won the most Central American Cups as well. So I think those Costa Rican teams can cause problems and be that dark horse, those teams that can put pressure and threaten the American teams or MLS teams in Mexico, the Liga MX teams as well.
Yeah, you look at the bracket that we have together for the CCC, and Saprissa is lined up with Vancouver Whitecaps. Be very interesting to see how they play in sort of sub-zero temperatures. But they're also in that half of the bracket where you've got LAFC, Columbus, and Inter Miami all lurking, as well as the likes of Monterrey and Pumas. It's going to be a bloodbath up there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Saprissa could go very far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they get past Vancouver. You assume that Monterrey is going to get past the Forge FC, Canadian Championship team. So that's going to be tough. But Mexican teams have struggled against Costa Rican teams, so that's not going to be easy. Assuming Monterrey gets past Forge, you never know with these tournaments what could happen, especially over 2 legs, and especially a Mexican team going north for I think is it the first leg or second leg, whatever leg up north against Forge. That could be a problem for Monterrey. So we'll see. But Saprissa, if there's a team outside of the MLS and Liga MX teams that can make a deep run, it's Saprissa has that cachet. They have that history of making a run. Alajuelense is another team from Costa Rica as well. So we'll see. But yeah, if they get past Vancouver, it might look good. If they get past Vancouver and Monterrey, then really watch out.
Yeah, and Herediano is also in the other half of the bracket. They are up against an RSL team that's trying to sort of stockpile itself again, reset what its offense looks like, and then there's the LA Galaxy waiting for the winner of that matchup. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of the Costa Rican teams really making a presence in the CCC this year.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so, because you want to see something different. You want to see. I mean, we know the Mexican teams are going to be strong. We know MLS teams are going to make an impact. Who's going to be that Cinderella team, to borrow the old sports expression, that will challenge those teams, that will make a run and add something different to the tournament, make it a little more interesting for people who maybe are a little tired or fatigued of seeing the MLS and the Liga MX teams make deep runs and win it.
Yeah, if you take a look really at the first round games, all of them, I believe, were won by either a U.S., Canadian, MLS Canadian, or a Mexican team. So there really weren't any upsets outside of maybe Herediano getting past their cupcake matchup. Although I take that back, Herediano did get through Toluca on their way there.
Yeah, that's big. Toluca, I mean, I know Toluca might not be the best team in Liga MX, but if those Central American teams, they really get up and really are motivated when they go up against a Mexican team. So they can do that. That's, that gives them confidence. And in this tournament, 2 legs, anything can happen. You never know. Could make a deep run and shock everybody in the region.
Now, we're talking a little bit about Costa Rica. Do you feel that their team is also primed for a World Cup run, the national team? Or do you feel that you can if you had any imaginary cryptocurrency that you could bet on the World Cup, do you see any teams coming out of CONCACAF other than the big 3 challenging?
Oof, that's a good question. If you're talking about getting to the knockout phase of the tournament, I mean, Costa Rica has a shot. Costa Rica has a good team. I know that they're kind of golden generation of a few years ago when they obviously with Keylor Navas in goal, and you had what's his name? Brian. It was he played in Europe. I can't remember. Brian Ruiz, I believe his name was. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Playmaker. So that generation is older and past, but right now in World Cup qualifying, they're top of the group there and they're undefeated. So they have a good team. They're going to be competitive. So maybe that's a team on CONCACAF that will make some noise. Outside of the big 3, Honduras is a team right now that is looking good in qualifying as well. I know CONCACAF qualifying is not a great measure of what they'll do in the World Cup, but for what we have now, that's all we have to look at and measure them. And Honduras has been playing pretty well, scoring a lot of goals. So maybe those are the 2 teams that will break out and kind of surprise people in the World Cup from CONCACAF.
Yeah, Honduras. I mean, it's great that you're bringing them up because that's basically Motagua right there.
Right.
It's a great transition right there. We can definitely, I think, focus quite a bit on the upcoming matchup between FC Cincinnati, but let's also talk a little bit about this tournament itself. You've covered some of the matches in last year's CCC. You had mentioned Independiente in New England, Philly Saprissa, even Chivas and Forge, I believe. on the whole, really looking at the first iteration of this new tournament, how do you feel it went in 2024?
I think it went pretty good. I was a little surprised by the changes and the tinkering and things like that. But for the most part, I mean, you got the best team to win it. Pachuca won it last year. I think organizers, they got what they wanted you get a MLS team, US MLS team against the Mexican team. That always is going to attract attention. And I think this format reminds me of the old format of was it CONCACAF Champions Cup back in the day as well, but with fewer teams. So you had the smaller teams like your Real Estelí, your Forge, the Costa Rican teams that we talked about, Saprissa, Herediano. They have more of a chance to make a deeper run than in the past when you had group stages, and it was tougher for those Central American teams to go through because they didn't have the depth. Obviously, the Mexican teams, the MLS teams have the depth and more money. So this changed back to kind of the older way, or at least from what I remember in the early 2000s, late 90s. It gives these smaller teams a chance to go through. And that makes it more interesting. I think in the end, though, we all know the Mexican teams and US MLS teams are going to be above everyone else and be the main title contenders. But I think, it went well. It drew some interest. It's different. Hopefully they don't change it again. You want people to kind of get used to one format that works. And, it's 2 legs, so maybe less traveling. You don't have the group stages and all that chaos that goes with group stages, and then scheduling in between weeks. And we know MLS doesn't really have a schedule where it's Friday through Monday. They'll play MLS games on a Wednesday or a Thursday. So maybe this format is a little bit better for MLS teams to fit into their schedule. So let's see what happens this year in terms of the quality of football and the attention it gets.
I think you're definitely getting some teams that are now realizing, these tournaments are realistically winnable. Columbus Crew was in the final against Pachuca. And as much as it hurts Cincinnati fans to say, oh, Columbus is lined up for another cup final, it basically, I think, motivated, a lot of people looking at this tournament, and they realize it has some value, it has some prestige, it has some cachet. And at the end, we all found it very interesting down here because the Crew were decimated apparently by a stomach bug that hit.
Ooh.
I remember all about that one. I don't know how much that was covered overall in that tournament, but
yeah. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe the Columbus Crew, he used that as an excuse. I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know. But in the end, I think the best team won in Pachuca there. So, Columbus Crew can go back and, they got to go back. What's the expression? Go back to the drawing board or whatever. Do people even have drawing boards anymore with all the technology now? I don't know. My cliches are outdated, but I mean, it's going to be another run that they have to make. And let's see, maybe Cincinnati gets them in the knockout stage somewhere. Maybe they get them, or they're on opposite ends of the bracket. So they would meet in the final if they play against you, which would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's I think one of the excellent things about this tournament this year is that we're on the opposite side of it from the Crew. So every time we have MLS matchups, we know that the furthest we can approach them is at a semifinal, and that tends to be also the case for like a U.S. Open Cup or a Leagues Cup, where if you're an Eastern team, you tend to face the Eastern teams before the final. So I think that is something that you can definitely sell for the CCC, that you get this opportunity to face a team you typically don't face in a final, a rival, and have that opportunity.
Right. And it's always good for international tournaments when rivals play each other in the international tournaments. It's always good. It always adds more excitement to those matches, especially at the stadium on those grounds there. Maybe for MLS, we know MLS and CONCACAF doesn't get great ratings on television, but the best experiences, the most memorable experiences are at the stadium. So you get Cincinnati and Columbus in a major cup final or knockout stage in a major tournament. And the stadium in Cincinnati is going to be rocking, and then they go to Columbus, it's going to be intense. So that hopefully that'll happen. That would be sweet to see that happen.
If that ever happens, if it's even if it's both LA teams in a final or both New York teams in a final, we got to see the Hudson River Derby in the playoffs for a change, which was incredible approach.
Right.
If we can get one of these glorified matchups in a final like this, I think it would do not only would it bring, I think, the value of the rivalry up, but it would also emphasize the value of the tournament itself.
Oh yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. That the best parts of rivalries, the best match, oftentimes the best matches of a rivalry don't happen in the league. They happen in, if you're, Barcelona, Real Madrid in a Champions League. Let's say Cincinnati and Columbus play each other in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I see here on the bracket, Chivas and America could play each other in the next round of the Champions Cup, and that's the Super Clásico in Mexico. So that would be intense as well. So hopefully you get those rivalry games in these continental tournaments that really add more intrigue and make it more exciting to watch.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this tournament itself. But first, I just want to hand things over to our sponsor real quick, Beyond Exercise. They're a full-spectrum physical therapy and fitness service here in Cincinnati. They've helped out with performance needs of our MLS Next Pro, and Academy athletes. If you want to stay healthy, get yourself active and injury-free, check out their services at gobeyondexercise.com. Let's move into this tournament. It's starting up this week, I believe. Is it not? I mean,
February the 9th?
Next week.
Is it February 9th? I think so. Yeah. No, first leg is the 4th. So this week coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Cincinnati has basically been reserved for more later on in the season, or later on in the month, I should say, which helps us out. But you're taking a look at some of these other matchups. They're juicy, but also they bring on these issues of, is the Canadian Stadium open for these matchups?
Yeah.
But really looking at this overall, I mean, we've considered it a two-country race. We've mentioned that. Is there a possibility for an unexpected team to challenge any of these big uns?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned Saprissa. I think Deportivo Saprissa, based off of reputation, might be the team that could do it. Alajuelense has a bye into the round of 16, so look out for them. That's a team that could make things happen. As me personally, as someone who with family roots in the Caribbean, I'd love to see Cavalier, the Jamaican team that won the Caribbean Cup. I'd love to see them go through and have a nice run. They're already into the round of 16, so that would be sweet. But my money for a team outside of those two, outside of the US MLS teams and Liga MX, is probably one of those two Costa Rican teams, either Alajuelense or Saprissa. I think those are the ones that have the history, they have the experience to get through and make a nice run to the final.
I'm going to put my money on Herediano. I think they've got an opportunity to sort of not necessarily cupcake themselves into a semifinal or a quarterfinal, but like I had mentioned, with the RSL and with the Galaxy not at 100%, and the possibility of facing Cincinnati and maybe upsetting them down the stretch, I think they have an opportunity. But I still feel that this is an MLS dominant, Liga MX dominant tournament.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yep. I agree with that. Yeah. Now, I'd like to see them make a run, but it's going to be tough. It is going to be difficult there for those, especially the Central American teams, because we're in February, so it's still cold, right? They have to make that trip north to Cincinnati. To Herediano has to go to Real Salt Lake. They have to go to Utah. that's going to be difficult for them. They're not used to that. So that works in those MLS teams' favor as well. The Mexican teams are just better quality, and the weather is not that different. But the MLS teams, they have to deal with that cold weather in Cincinnati and Real Salt Lake. Even maybe Antigua has to go to Seattle. Seattle isn't like snowing, but still, it's chillier than it is in Guatemala for sure. So that's another issue that they have to deal with there. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this tournament plays out.
I think you can also argue, though, and we saw this with Cavalier last year when FC Cincinnati had to go to Jamaica and play there. There's the other intangible, which is the pitch itself, that it could end up becoming potholes for teams to work around. Or the thing that I always hate is like the running track that's around some of these.
Oh yeah,
that's prime surface for twisting an ankle or slipping in a bad spot. So I also feel that that's sort of an intangible that I consider to favor some of the Caribbean and Central American teams.
Yeah, for sure. They're used to playing on surfaces that are not as pristine and as well kept as what we are used to here in the United States. And that's not just soccer pitches. We're talking about like the grounds of American football, baseball. I mean, they do a fantastic job in the States of making sure that those playing surfaces are immaculate, right? And those Jamaica and some of these other countries in Central America that have the athletics track, they don't have the money to have a soccer specific stadium like you have in Cincinnati, or here in Miami as well. So they have to put everything in one place there. So definitely does make it more difficult. And also because of that athletics track, the crowd isn't on top of them with the noise and that negative energy toward the opposition, right? So in a way that the state of the pitches there make it more difficult, but in one sense maybe it's a little bit easier because they don't have the constant just pressure and that energy from the opposition fans bearing down on them, playing games with them psychologically. So it is a unique challenge for sure.
Yeah, I think Justin, who's actually listening and helping us off off camera here, I think he brought up the pitch that's down in Motagua, what we'd be facing the first round of this tournament. And once again, it has a running surface around the entirety of the pitch.
Yeah, so, the Estadio Chelato Ucles. Yeah, it has that running surface around it. Yeah, it's going to be. And from what I've seen on that stadium, it's not ready for an Olympic trials, if you know what I mean. Like it's I don't even think they have lane lines there, right? I think it's just there. It used to have lane lines, but maybe they don't do track meets anymore. And like I said, poor nation, they don't have the money to fix it or to renovate it. So it's just sitting there, and that just adds another dimension to the opposition teams that have to go there and play. So, but hey, if FC Cincinnati can get past Motagua playing in those conditions, that'll toughen them up for the other matches that are to come.
Let's hope so. I mean, looking at the past matchups that Motagua has had in these types of tournaments, the last time they participated was back in 2023 when it was the CONCACAF Champions League. And in the first round, they upset Pachuca, who won the entire thing last year. So anything I think is possible, especially when you have a hungry team like Motagua against a team that's fresh into the season like FC Cincinnati.
Right. And Motagua they are in the middle of their Clausura tournament. They just finished round 4 of the Clausura tournament. So they are sharp. They are fresh. They are in game shape. Well, Cincinnati, they still in what, preseason? When does the MLS season starts? In about a month or so, roughly. Yes. I didn't. So that's difficult for a team to come from preseason mentality, not in game shape, or the whole squad is not in game shape, to go up against a team that is in full competitive mode. that is in game shape in the middle of a tournament. They're in their Clausura tournament, and then have to beat them and eliminate them. So that's going to be difficult for Cincinnati. And then you add on the conditions, the playing conditions as well. And the fact that Motagua, they've been the best. They're the defending champions in Honduran First Division football. And because it's an MLS team, US, they're going to play with a little bit of a chip of their shoulder, with an attitude, with something that they feel that they have to prove something. So that's going to be difficult. It's a good test for Cincinnati to start the tournament.
Yeah, you're taking a look at really what Motagua's been through. Finished in second in the Apertura, right behind CD Olympia. So they've had a solid first half of their season. Gotten out of the gate just recently. I think they're 1 draw, 1 win, 1 loss so far in the Clausura. But I believe this team is also rearranging some of their roster. I think they just recently sold their best player.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little news on that?
Agustin Osmendi, who is, I think he was still the leading goal scorer in the Clausura tournament. And was he also the top assist man as well? If he wasn't the top assist, he was in the top 3, but he's the leading goal scorer of this Clausura tournament. He's just got sold back to Argentina to Godoy Cruz in the Argentine First Division. So he was essentially their best player, and they just sold him. He's going back to Argentina. So Cincinnati kind of dodged a bullet there. I mean, they the best player, maybe the best player in Honduran football the last 2 tournaments, is gone back to Argentina. So that's going to be a big blow for Motagua in terms of making progress in this tournament and then challenging in the local league as well. So that's a big move there. Obviously, like I said before, a small club in a country that's poor, they found a player that they could sell to make some money and, help with the books. They'll sacrifice a little bit of competitive edge to help that in that department and help in the finances department. But Agustin Osmendi is one of the best players in the Honduran First Division in the last couple of seasons, and he's gone back to Argentina.
Yeah, and I think they even sold their second best player, Rubilio Castillo. Mm-hmm. He's gone back to, I believe, the Colombian first league. And so really all they've been able to do with this, I think they brought in an Argentine striker over the break as well. So they're as much as they're in form, they're being forced to rearrange their roster.
Yeah, and they have to do it on the fly, and they have to do it in terms of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, in 2 weeks when they play Cincinnati, play on the 19th, the first leg. So, I mean, I know they're professionals, but 2 weeks to incorporate new players and get them to the level where they can perform like Castillo and Osmendi, that's tough. That might actually be good timing for FC Cincinnati there in that regard. That they're going to take on a Motagua team in transition, and we'll see how it plays out for them. But yeah, losing Castillo went back to Colombia Deportivo Pereira, and so that's going to be that's the opening. That's the dip in the talent or in the cohesion of Motagua might be enough for Cincinnati to exploit and then go through and get to the next round.
Yeah, I really think Cincinnati has a good chance with this. Motagua is going to have a few weeks to get their team into some cohesion, but so is Cincinnati. They just have to start making their moves. I'm sure you've seen on the news that we're not sure if Lucho Acosta is going to be still within the team. We don't know who's the number 10. If Evander comes from Portland, there's still a lot in this team that has to be constructed in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
That's big. If they lose Lucho Acosta, I don't know.
I'm not as worried about a big player like Acosta not being ready for the first round of the CCC.
Right.
He didn't play a lot last year, and it was a lot of the FCC2 squad really showing their muscle against Cavalier. But they're definitely, if they get by Motagua, they're going to need a professional team out there against the likes of Tigres.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And this kid Orellano, I watched him play and when I was for Paramount Plus, when I was doing the Argentine thing, I watched him play for Vélez, and he's good.
That's right. You got a glimpse of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was he expected to sort of blossom into this arguably top tier player in MLS?
Well, I guess, yeah, I'll answer that with yes. At least when I watched him play, we knew that he was good enough to play outside of Argentina. Let me put it that way. So wherever he was going to go, I know he was in Brazil for a while with Vasco, and then eventually made his way to Cincinnati. But when I watched him play, you said, okay, this kid is good. He's good. He's going to have a future outside of Argentine first division football. And now he's made his way. He went to Brazil, and now he's in Cincinnati, and he's got talent. The kid is good. Now, it helps that he has a playmaker like Acosta with him because he's more of a wide player. But he's good. I was impressed by him, and I'm sure obviously the other teams outside of Argentina were impressed with him as well. So he's someone to watch for.
Yeah, Justin just brought up our best 11 that we had for Cavalier last year. And so like the likes of Aaron Bupenza started, who is no longer with the team. Dado Valenzuela, who has currently a knock. He's probably going to be out for about a few weeks. But a lot of the team that we did have is not in place. It's going to be a little threadbare, or it's going to be challenging some of the new purchases that we've got. But I think we can get ourselves a pretty good, solid starting lineup against the likes of Motagua. And so that's why I'm saying, in a nutshell, I think FCC does pass against Motagua.
I think so as well. I think they'll get past Motagua and move on. I mean, it's going to be tough because Cincinnati is not game shape yet. You know, Motagua has already been there, already into their clausura tournament, and it's still preseason. So Cincinnati does have to kind of shake off a little bit of the rust and kind of get into form quickly compared to a team that's already deep into their or have started their local tournament. But just off paper and the talent, they should be able to get past them and then move on. So I think they'll get past them there and move on. And what they have probably, they either have Tigres or Real Estelí of Nicaragua next. The winner of that, that's gonna be interesting, especially if it's Tigres. So we'll see. But they should get past Motagua there. Motagua's not going to be easy, but they should be able to get past them there, especially if they're able to put out, Cincinnati's able to put out something close to their first choice side. I don't expect, their first choice side, but if they can put something close to it, I think Pat Noonan will get them through to the next round.
I think so too. But also looking at this from a larger perspective. I mean, this is a massive tournament already. Do you, if we're putting our prediction glasses on, do you see a clear winner here? Or is it really whoever survives the grinder from that top part of the bracket?
I think the clear winner is Club America of Mexico. I think they're the clear favorite. They've won the last 3 tournaments in Mexico, and they are I mean, they look good. Club America look good. I haven't watched much Mexican football, but I was flipping channels and I saw a game recently they did. I can't remember who it was. They look good. Club America to me is the clear favorite. They're the clear favorite. They've won the last the last 3 Liga MX tournaments. And obviously they've won the most CONCACAF continental tournaments. Their coach, Andre Jardine, has Brazilian guy. I don't know what he's done, but I mean, he is racking up trophies to the point where he could be the most decorated coach or manager in America's history. And that's saying something, because America is it may be the most decorated club in CONCACAF. And definitely in terms of the Champions Cup, Champions League, and then obviously the tournaments they've won in Mexico. So, I mean, to me, Club America is the clear favorite. If they don't win it, I won't say I'll be shocked, but I will be very surprised if they don't win it. To me, they look like the clear favorite.
I still think, and you brought this up, but Club America has got the bye, but they have to face Chivas if Guadalajara gets on to the next round.
Yeah.
And even worse, it's a home and away leg, so it's going to have real punches thrown, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's to me, in terms of football, soccer in CONCACAF, it's the best club rivalry in CONCACAF. Chivas versus America. The Super Clásico Mexico is the best club rivalry in CONCACAF. I know Comunicaciones and in Guatemala, Comunicaciones and the other one, I can't remember. Oh my, Municipal, Olimpia Marathon is a good one in Honduras, and then the MLS has a bunch of good ones. I know you guys with Cincinnati and Columbus is heated. You know, Inter Miami starting to get it with Orlando a little bit, but Chivas and America is the best club rivalry match in CONCACAF. So if they meet in that next round, then I mean that's going to be must-watch football right there. Must-watch television.
I know I'm going to hate myself for this, but I'm going to say I think some of the cards are stacked in Miami's favor. As much as we say, well, yeah, they're not 100%. They have older players on the team, but they also have deep rosters, and they're going to play some of their kids, and they're going to depend on them. But I also feel that last year, when the likes of Messi were on the sidelines and recovering, that's when their youth stepped up and won big games in MLS.
Yeah.
And so I really have this feeling that Miami's going to push as hard as they can in this tournament and then ride that wave going into the Club World Cup. So
yeah, here's the issue. I agree with that. Everything you say, I agree with. Here's the one X factor: Javier Mascherano.
Right.
Javier Mascherano is the coach, the manager of Inter Miami. He does not have a very good track record as a manager. In fact, he was criticized in Argentina because of how he handled the youth. What was it? Under 20. Yes. Argentine side. He's been criticized for that because once he left, whoever took over for the Argentine under 20 got them to a World Cup and made a deep run. I can't remember the name of the coach right now, but Javier Mascherano, we all know of his track record. He was a fantastic holding midfielder in his day as a player, but as a coach, he has a lot. Let me put it. He has a lot to prove. A lot. I think they made a mistake firing Tata Martino personally. You know, his first season with all those guys and everyone. I think he deserved another chance. He's an MLS Cup winner with Atlanta, but okay, they brought in Mascherano. Now let's see what happens. I don't think Mascherano is that good of a coach. I don't think he's better than Tata Martino. Messi does cover up a lot of mistakes. You just have to put him out on the pitch there, and he'll coach the team with his brain on the pitch, so that'll help. But when Messi doesn't play, or they have to go, Messi's doing World Cup qualifying. You mentioned the youth kids stepping up. Part of that was because Martino did a good job coaching them. I don't know if Mascherano has that same acumen there. So I think that's the Achilles heel, the weakness of Inter Miami is the coach, in my opinion.
Well, great. Now I'm going to have to just redo my entire bracket. You've got me rethinking it. I will put out a fresh bracket, and I will post it on my social media account. But George, we want to close this out. This is a very entertaining 50 minutes discussion that has come and gone really quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say it went by fast. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for our first episode of the year. We're going to try to run these every week. We're going to try and make a video every now and then, if I can just figure out how my camera works on this thing. But I want to close it out. The floor is yours. Where can we find you? What are you doing? Let us know.
Well, let's see. Currently, I'm a free agent, so I'm just waiting for the CONCACAF people here in Miami that are doing the production. I'm waiting for them to just assign me some games, whether it's the Champions Cup or I think some Nations League things as well. So we'll see. But right now, I'm just every day. I hate to say average because it sounds so bad or beneath, but just the everyday person who works a regular job and is doing this on the side there until something full time can come up there. So I guess you just have to wait. I guess my Twitter feed or X feed, whenever I announce the next game I'm going to be calling, and that should be in around March. And so that's basically it. I mean, I'm on X, GD Metellus 8. That's my Twitter handle there. I have an Instagram, which is George D Metellus, but it's kind of like a private thing for my family. I barely post on Instagram. So, I mean, if you want to follow me there, that's cool too. But yeah, that's basically what I got going on right now. Nothing much, nothing too much, nothing crazy.
I mean, I consider you more of a globetrotter than an average Joe. I mean, I think your virtual passport it's got so much more coverage.
It's insane. I can't. Sometimes I look back and I say, "Wow, I did Turkish Super League and La Liga and thing in Italy." And when I was at Gold TV, I did German games, and then Libertadores Sudamericana. I did a UEFA Women's Champions League final back in the day in Gold TV. I did a couple of US Open Cup finals, and then the South American League. So it has been a wild ride, but it's been fun to cover those leagues and see how the game has progressed. And I've tried to learn more about MLS. Sometimes because of the different networks I've worked in, the leagues, I really haven't been able to get deep into MLS. So maybe this tournament will help me kind of refocus that and get back into MLS there. But it's been fun.
Yeah, I would argue. I want to hear you on Apple Plus. I want to hear you with an MLS game under your belt.
Oh, if I do MLS, man, after the Philadelphia game, or was it Philly, New England, people were saying you should do Apple Plus. I said, can you imagine me on Apple Plus talking about passes and looking better than Halle Berry, and like making Marvel movie references because Kai Wagner and Nightcrawler. I mean, it's insane. So imagine that, in LA, I know I'll say some crazy stuff about LA, so who knows, so. Yeah, LA, the land of, I don't know, Silicon and the Lakers. I'll say some crazy stuff, man. I'll get kicked off just because I have no filter sometimes. So who knows? But I wouldn't mind the paycheck. The pay would be nice. Yeah.
So if you guys want to hear more of him, definitely spam your MLS guys, I guess. But that brings us to the end of this jersey swap. I want to thank you very much, George, for your time with us. Remember, if you guys want to be involved with this, become a Patreon for CST. Go to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. We could definitely appreciate your support. If you want more podcasts, go to your favorite weekly podcasts, the platforms. I mean, listen to me, listen to our live show, or you can go to our social media profiles at Cincy Soccer Talk. Until next time, and I say this to everybody, keep your kit clean. Thank you for your time, George.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.